Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kindness strongly coming, 'cause you can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hi, this is Nancy Earl, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And all the way from Mexico, I have Kat O'Sullivan here, and welcome to the High Road, Kat.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happier with me. She's created a really cool program. It's a book, but it's also a program. I want to say this. And it's called From Doubt to Do. So if you're watching me on video, I'm holding the book up. It's really cool. Navigating your pathway to possibility. And I like this book because let me just preface this show by saying she teaches us to get out of our comfort zone and just go for it, And I love this. Before we get into it and I read your bio, I will mention very quickly that my book just went up on Amazon today for
Ah,
pre-sales. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. So it's
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's from Collective Inc. out of the UK. It is a guide to angel communication and spiritual laws. And in the book, I teach you how to connect with your guardian angel, how to connect to spirit, and how to connect to the earth energies, as well as I'll just give a little bit of more information. I also channel messages from Archangel Gabriel that are in the book for humanity. So it's a good one, you guys. It'll be out. They're telling me for Christmas, but I don't know. We're kind of iffy if it's going to be here for Christmas or January too. So I'll let you know on that. Also, I've launched a new website, and God, this has been a long time since I've launched a website. And it's psychicforhumanity.com. And I am a psychic. And I've kind of pushed it to the wayside for a long time. And now the way the world is, I really need to do more teaching and I need to do more psychic readings. So I've established a new website just to do that. And it's psychicforhumanity.com. Please join me. I'll do energy healings. I'll connect you with your guardian angel. We can just do a regular tarot card reading if you want, whatever you choose. So I want you to know that's out there. Okay, now let's talk about this lady. Kat is a best-selling author, you guys. She's a keynote speaker. She's a lifelong change maker. And she is actually. She believes when shift happens, it's time to make magic happen. I like that. Kat leverages her 25 years of experience and expertise to help individuals and organizations achieve the seemingly impossible. And you guys, this is just, I want you to tell us your story. You were born in Los Alamos. I have to say, I lived in New Mexico for many years. I've been to Los Alamos, so I loved your story. Tell us your story. You were born in New Mexico. Your address on your birth certificate was a P.O. box.
Yeah,
Take it away.
way back then, if somebody had asked me where I was born, I'd do the classic, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, you know, and, you know, both my parents, believe it or not, were recruited by, I say, men in black, who showed up at their doorstep. They were in Chicago at the time. And my dad had just gotten out of the Navy. My mom just graduated from nursing school. And next thing you know, my dad was whisked off to Los Alamos, New Mexico. He had no idea what he was really getting himself into. He left my mom behind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then like 3 months later, those same men in black came and got her and took her. And he, worked out in the field testing the bombs. And my mom was in the lab doing God knows what. I mean, everything was secret, top secret. And even within the family, we did not talk about it ever, even after we left Los Alamos. And it created this kind of secrecy factor that, when they left, they didn't leave that behind. They took it with
They
them.
took it with them. Yeah, and I will say from living in New Mexico, it's a beautiful place. First of all, I want to say Los Alamos. I don't want to give it a bad rap because I
Right.
did a motorcycle trip there with a guy friend of mine, and we drove up there, and it was fun. All the way from
Mhm.
Albuquerque, we went up to Los Alamos, and it's really out in the middle of nowhere. And I just want to say this, that movie Oppenheimer just came out.
Mhm.
You reference it in your book, by the way. And he wanted to live out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico because it was so beautiful, but it was so remote. I don't think
Yes.
people know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's way, way up on a mesa overlooking,
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It
It's
really is.
beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of ironic, in hindsight, that here you are in this beautiful place
Yeah.
creating something potentially disastrous.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And
Now, can I just
yeah,
ask you, if you don't mind, if they couldn't talk about it, how did you find out about it? Because you say that your parents really didn't talk about it too much. How did you find out anything about this?
well, I mean, I lived there, not that long, but long enough that I had some memory of
You're
it.
5, right? You were 5 years old?
5, 6 years old when we left. Yeah. And we went to Albuquerque
I
actually for
know.
a year before we moved to California. But, the interesting thing is that, growing up, it was just never a, conversation that happened. And again, it created such secrecy. And what I didn't realize is that particularly my mom, but I think both of them were living a secret life before they ever went to Los Alamos.
Oh, I see.
And, how that showed up was well into my adulthood. I took my mom out. We got a little drunk, and my mom leans over and she whispers, "Hun, you're really Jewish." I'm like, "Hello, what?" I have been grown up, Lutheran,
Oh
and
my god.
and I'm like, "What do you mean I'm Jewish?" And she says, "We were raised German Lutheran by day and Jewish by night." I mean, literally, like they closed the windows, and at night they were Jewish, but during the day they were Lutheran. So, um, and
Why?
this was
Why do you think that? Can I just ask?
because even though, yeah, because I guess it would have been her grandparents converted from Jewish to German Lutheran to escape the Holocaust.
Okay.
And it's just one of those things, like how deep is that and generationally passed down that, this was a big secret.
Yeah.
Now, subsequently, I tried to get my mom to talk about it. And she was like, "I never said that."
Oh my
She
god.
refused to talk about it, and she took it to her grave.
Your father too?
Yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah. So, that was kind of like a, "Oh my God" moment, like, what is that all about? And so I kind of jokingly say, I'm a Zen Messianic Jew.
I love it. I love it. Well, what really inspired you to put this together? Because I will say she's in Mexico, by the way, you guys. She's down in Mexico, and I love Mexico. It's cool. I like Mexico. I'll tell you why I like Mexico. I know it gets a bad rap, but the last time I was there, which has been a few years now, it was just like so quaint. You know, it wasn't about all the stuff. It was just
Yeah.
life. It
Very
was,
down to earth. The people are so warm and so welcoming and so genuine. I mean, it's just been transformational being down here. Coming from Los Angeles, it's like a completely different world.
yeah. Well, tell your story. How did you end up there? Why'd you put the book together? Give the audience an idea of what inspired you to write it.
Well, what inspired me to write it actually is throughout my life, I've done all these seemingly impossible things. And, those who are closest to me, my friends, my relatives, my colleagues, they've always said, you need to write a book.
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm too busy. I don't have time to write a book, But it was always one of those things nagging at me. You know,
Right.
you need to write this book. You need to write this book.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit,
I hear this
my
a lot.
life came to a complete halt.
Yeah.
My successful business of 15 years came to a halt.
Wow.
Everything just came to a halt. And I had been so busy being busy that I hadn't really given much thought to like what I really wanted to do with my life going forward. And I didn't realize how completely burned out I was. I mean, I used to love what I did, but it had gotten so kind of blah, 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 blah to me, you know, same thing, blah, 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 you know, and in some ways it was my success that was keeping me stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, how do you leave something that's, you know, you've been so successful at and that everybody said you should, haha, you know, keep doing. But when COVID hit, it was such a blessing because it forced me to stop.
I love this because you're not the only, I want to tell you this, and I want the audience to know this. I do so many interviews, and there are so many interviews I've done in the last couple years where this is the story, where COVID was not a bad thing. It was a
No.
blessing because it gave people the opportunity to like regroup and figure out what is it that I really want
Right.
to do at this point. Continue on. I just want to say
Yeah,
that.
no, I agree with you because, you know, different people have different perspectives about it. But again, it turned out to be a blessing. And, you know, I've had so many, just as kind of an aside, so many little did I know moments
Yeah.
throughout my life, you know, that I never expected. And this was one of them. And my real wake up call was I'm sitting in my office, of course, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Ha ha ha. And my husband walks into the office and innocently says, "Hey, hon, can I get you anything?" Now he's thinking coffee.
Right.
The first thought was, I want a new life. And it came out of nowhere. I mean, and I didn't say it out loud.
I was going to say, did you say it out
No,
loud?
no, 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 no. I
Didn't.
mean, it just hit me so hard because it was like, I want a new life. And I mean, I get goosebumps even now just thinking of that moment because it was such a wake up call.
Yeah.
And my husband's 4 dreaded words, I have an idea. And this was the biggest, I have an idea. So, you know, I'm thinking, what does that really mean? I mean, I'm lying awake at night, you know, what does that mean? I want a new life. I mean, I've got a great husband, I've got, you know, great family, and, you know, what does it mean? I want a new life. And I realized that I was burned out and I wanted to do something fundamentally different. And at that moment, I didn't really know what that was, except that I needed to do something really different.
You need to change.
Change, something transformational, not just tweaking. I mean, like huge. I mean, that's what I was feeling. Like, this is going to be another one of those moments of little did I know, right? And the challenge was we were living in the Los Angeles area. We had a beautiful home. I'd been there over 30 years,
Oh, wow.
and my husband a little longer. And it was expensive to live there.
Sure.
And I mean, like, how am I going to make some big transformational shift living here? There's no way, you know, there's no way we could live without my substantial income.
Mhm.
So, of course, I have these 2 magical questions that I ask myself and others. And that is, you know, it felt impossible. So the first question is, what if it's not impossible?
Mhm.
And followed by, what am I not seeing?
Oh.
And it's magical, it's mystical, it's spiritual. But when I asked that question, what am I not seeing? It was like overnight, I saw this article about a woman who had moved to Mexico. And she was living on her fixed income. I'm like, really? Huh. But Mexico, like you said, so many
Yeah.
misconceptions,
Yeah,
so
you're
many
like, "Oh, I don't
assumptions.
know, I don't know."
It's not safe, it's,
Yeah,
dirty, it's this, it's that,
water, yeah. Don't drink the water.
right. And yet, that whole thing about she's living on her fixed income got my attention. So I start doing research.
Okay.
And I'm like, what would that be like? Where in Mexico would have a moderate climate, would be economically feasible, et cetera. And, best case scenario around water and mountains. I mean, I'm like picturing this ideal environment.
But that's what you
And
need to do. I'm gonna stop you because I just moved and I pictured what I wanted and I got it.
mhm, exactly.
Yeah, and I just want to say that because my
Hmm.
daughter was like floored because I said I want water and I want trees and I want to be in this little town and I want to be close to you and I got it all. But it's about I love this. It's about what you ask for. You put that
Yes.
intention and I want to rewind a minute. You asked the universe, what do I don't know what your exact question was, but what do I need to do or where would I go in Mexico? How would I make this work? And then the universe shows you.
Immediately.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
mean, immediately. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next day,
yeah.
I'm reading this article, and again, I get goosebumps thinking about it because it was just like such a God shot. That's all I
Yeah,
have to say, you
yeah.
know? And so after a lot of research, didn't take me long, but digging in, and all of a sudden, Lake Chapala, Mexico comes up on my radar. And it literally, I had created a checklist of everything I had to have, want to have, it would be nice to have.
Oh, so you wrote everything down that you
Yeah,
wanted?
I did.
Okay.
And I'm like, check, check, check. It checked every single box. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Hun, I have an idea. We're going to move to Mexico." He's like, "What?" Long story short, from the time we said, okay, we're going to do this,
Yeah.
3 months later, we were on a plane moving to Mexico. We had sold our home
I was gonna
to
say the house sold that quick, huh?
boat in Northern California, our household goods. I mean, we literally got on a plane with our baggage and our golden retriever
Oh my God.
and moved to Mexico. Now, I will say 3 weeks before we moved, we flew down for 5 days to find a rental.
Okay.
But I mean, prior to that, we were 100% hell yes commitment to doing this. I mean, there was really no turning back.
And she talks
We
about
had,
she says, time to say hell yes to what you really want in the book. I just want to mention that. This is what I love about your book. She doesn't curse in the book or anything, but she just says it's time to say, hell yeah, go for it. I mean, because what are you
well,
waiting for?
yeah. And that hell yes, a lot of people, I mean, that's been kind of my
Your thing.
mantra, if you
Okay.
will, in everything I've done professionally, personally.
Okay,
It's,
okay. I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna make you tell us about calling Bob Hope.
yeah,
Let's rewind. And I don't want to tell her whole book, you guys. The book is from Doubt to Do, but I have to tell you have to tell the story now because if you don't, because you talk about courage, and this is why I'm bringing it up because it took a lot of courage for you and your husband to sell everything and go to Mexico. But you had done this before.
yeah,
You called Bob Hope, and I'm talking the real Bob Hope, the guy who, you know, was in all the movies and everything, and who was, big for, the USO and everything like that.
yeah.
Tell the story. Tell the story, Pat.
Well, I have to say it started when I was 14, when providentially I went to an Up With People performance. Now, this is a 2 hour, very lively, uplifting,
Musical.
fun.
Is it musical?
Hmm?
Is it a musical?
Yeah, it's
Was
a
it a musical?
musical performance, two
Okay.
hours
Okay.
of uplifting music, with a cast of 100 young people, college age from around the world, who come together for a year and they hit the road and they perform. They stay in host families wherever they go. It's an amazing transformational experience. So I saw their performance at 14. And it was one of those moments where I said, this is my dream. I am someday, somehow, some way, I am going to travel with Up With People. Now I was 14 and then it was college age. So it was, a ways off.
Okay.
But when I turned 16, they decided to start a high school cast of juniors and seniors from around the world, 100. And I was, I heard about this and I'm like, huh, there it is. I am going to travel with Up With People. And of course, everyone was like, there's no way. They're only picking 100 kids from around the world. What chance do you have? And I said, I am going to travel with Up With People. So I applied against all odds. I get the envelope. I open it up. And I'm like running through the house like I've just won the sweepstakes. I'm in, Up With People picked me. And my parents took one look at me and they said, there's no way. You can't travel for a year. We can't afford for you to be on on the road for a year, your last year of high school. No way. And I'm like, excuse me, F you. No one is stealing my dream.
Well, how
I'm
expensive was it to do it? I mean, I didn't realize it was so costly. And I'm going to age myself. I remember Up With People.
Yeah.
Y'all know, I remember this. So when I read it in your book, I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't remember how much it was, but it was enough that my parents couldn't afford it. And it might as well have been $1 million,
Right. Okay.
So anyway, when they said we can't afford it, I'm like, I'm going to find a way. The year before, I had gone to another Up With People had done a live NBC special with Bob Hope. He was the MC and I was in the audience.
Wow.
So I'm like, no problemo. I am going to call Bob Hope.
I can't believe you did this.
So literally, this is what it looked like. I pick up the phone. Hi, I call NBC Studios. Hi, this is Kat. Can I talk to Bob, please? Now I'm like acting like I'm his best friend. And
Is that
the
because I was
gal-
wondering, how did you get through? That's how you got through. Okay.
yeah. So I'm like, can I speak to Bob, please? I mean, again, providentially, he was there. They put him on the phone. And I'm like, hi, Bob. I don't know if you remember me, but we met at that Up With People, special that you did. And I have this incredible opportunity. They started I give him my pitch, right? And the next thing I know, he says, where do I send the check? And he paid for my entire year.
God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him. Were you
Yeah.
able to thank him like afterwards? Did you ever connect with him after the fact?
Okay, so here's the crazy. So I hit the road. I'm 16, traveling 24/7. We're going all over the place. And one of the places we went was Palm Springs, which was where he was living at the time. And I was staying with this doctor. Our host family, 3 of us were staying at this doctor's home. And while we were there, the phone rings. And my host family says, hey, Kat, can you pick up the phone and pick it up? Hi, this is the Grove residence. Hi, this is Bob. Is Dr. Grove home? I'm like, is this like Bob? I recognize that voice. This is Bob Hope, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, this is Kat. You sponsored me and now I'm on the road. And he's like, well, I was going to ask the doctor to meet me at the office. Why don't you come with him?
Oh my God.
So I did have the opportunity to share with him what was happening and how he changed, literally, it changed my life. I mean, it put me on this trajectory. So I used to call it my Bob Hope strategy.
Yeah, you
which
talked about
is,
that in the book.
which is, turned into my hell yes strategy, which is when you have an opportunity or a challenge, you say hell yes, and then you figure it out. Once you
sit there and
make
go,
that
oh my God, what do
commitment,
I do? Right? You
Mhm.
say hell yeah.
because once you make that wholehearted hell yes commitment, things happen that you never expect. And so that put me on this trajectory that, all of my professional life, I took on seemingly impossible challenges and, they they worked,
Yeah.
they became possible.
Because you didn't have the doubt.
Well,
I
I'd
love
like
this.
to say I never had any doubts, but
No.
I will say that as many times as I've done these seemingly impossible things,
Right.
the next time something shows up, I get excited, but there is that moment of doubt that creeps in. But I have learned over time to I have a heightened awareness that when that happens, it's like, no, wait a minute. Is that really true?
Mhm.
Is
Tell
this
myself a
just
story. Yeah, is it a story?
right, right. It's all a story,
Yeah.
so I'm able to make the shift quickly into hell yes.
Yeah. Well, and through the book, I mean, I want to talk about this. You talk about courage and you tell your story and you talk about clarity, and I just want you guys to know, you also talk about God, which I really love. You tell some stories, and I wondered if you would give, or tell a couple stories. There's a story about Venessa.
Yeah,
Would it be okay if you told that story?
yeah.
It's in
I
the book.
mean, I've done a lot of seemingly impossible things, but this is the most poignant
Okay.
story of all because, God's ways are rarely ours,
Great.
you know? And the Vanessa story is all about how an unexpected call became my calling. And what happened is, like I'm at home, 9 o'clock at night, phone rings, I pick it up, and it's a friend, not a great friend, just somebody I know, more of an acquaintance.
Right.
And she's like, my son Mikey was just diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. They're going to operate in the morning. I can't think of anyone else to call. Could you come to the hospital? I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why the hell is she calling me? I don't know her that well. Why would I want to go to the hospital at 9 o'clock at night? I, you know,
And how can
I,
you say no? How can you say no?
well, and how could I say no? Right. But again, that doubt, it's like that first thought is usually one of what the hell, right? But, and, the next moment is how could I say no? So then I find myself driving through this canyon between where we lived and the hospital, which was like a metaphor of, what I was going to hit when I got to the hospital. So imagine, I get to the hospital, I go up the elevator door opens on the pediatric oncology unit.
Okay.
And it's like the twilight zone. I had never experienced anything like that.
Okay.
And, I connect with my friend and I'm like, what, what do you need? It's just, I just needed somebody to be here with me and I realized she's pregnant, very pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm pregnant. I can't stop working because of health insurance. And I just don't know what I'm going to do. Well, long story short, guess what? I decide that I can be there during the day because I was working on the weekends at the time and my kids were in school. So I'm like, okay, I'll come sit with Mikey during the day so that you can work and we'll see what happens. Well,
Okay.
I spent 6 weeks on this oncology unit every day, with Mikey. But at the same time, I noticed this little, I call them the little gaggle of girls. They were all like 5, 6 years old, bald as all get out, walking around the unit with their IV poles in hand, like it's nothing, you know? But they used to get really ticked off when people thought they were boys
Oh.
because they had no hair, unshapely figures.
Mhm.
And so I decide I'm going to bring in girly stuff
Okay.
for them to play with, so stuff to put, headbands and makeup and jewelry and anything that would make them,
Girl.
feel
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
And it was like magic. They loved it. But I noticed this one little girl who was always kind of on the periphery. And I asked the nurse about it, and they said, "Oh, that's Venessa." Now, this is April. And 2 weeks before Christmas, she was diagnosed with the same thing as Mikey. And her parents abandoned her at the hospital. Unthinkable. Now, you can imagine these were not functional people.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So she had been in the hospital from December until then, April, with no family support, going through hell, frankly. She was going through high dose chemotherapy, radiation, the initial surgery. She had to learn how to walk again, unthinkable. So I decide, oh, well, maybe I'll spend a little time with Venessa when Mikey's, napping or whatever.
Mm.
And, we just, you know, connected is all I have to say. And there was a fateful night when they really thought she was going to die and her family didn't show up. So I decided to spend the night because I was not going to let this little girl die alone. And she made it. And I knew in that moment that there was a reason.
For you to be there.
And it wasn't for Mikey.
No.
And it was also for Vanessa. It was for Venessa, but later what I realized is it was for me. This is what I needed in my life. And so I asked one of the nurses if I could take her to the park or McDonald's, get her out of the hospital, even just for an hour. And they're
Sure.
like, no way, that's never going to happen. I'm thinking to myself, you don't know. Impossible is not part of my vocabulary. And so I'm like, just gave it up to God. I'm like, if this is meant to be, you're going to have to work this out. 3 days later, social worker approaches me and she's like, we've all been talking and Vanessa's doing so much better with your involvement. Would you take her?
Yeah.
I'm like, to the park? Knowing full well
Yeah.
that what she meant was take her home. And
How old was she? Can I just ask
she
that?
was 6. She had just turned 6.
6 years old. My God.
Yeah. And it just so happened that I was a foster parent. So, and they knew it. So they're like, we'll get you custody if you'll take her. And I'm like, again, there's that momentary, what are you doing? But the next thing I know out of my mouth is, of course.
Right.
Right. And 3 days later, I'm packing her into my van and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? But in the same tone, I'm like, okay, God, this is your plan. I'm
Yeah.
going with it, whatever this is.
Yeah.
And, I thought I'd get a lot of support from my family and friends and colleagues, and I did not.
Isn't
It-
that surprising? Isn't that surprising?
It shocked me. I mean, these were people that I just couldn't even imagine. But in hindsight, they were just afraid. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I said I'd take her, they're like, understand that her prognosis is probably only about 3 months.
So you knew that you were taking her. Then why would the people be that way if they knew?
Because they knew that she was going to die. And they didn't know how to handle that. Now, I had one friend, her name is also Kat, who said she was the one person that supported me. And she said, Kat, when her time on earth is done, you're going to have the opportunity to usher her back into the arms of God. Oh my gosh. I'm like, that's what sustained me through so much, was just knowing that in some way, somehow, I had this opportunity, this privilege of being with her for whatever time she had, and then being able to usher her back into the arms of God.
Kat,
And
Kat, there's a place in heaven for you. You know that. You know that.
well,
I mean,
she,
what you did was
people,
so unselfish. Well, let me say this. What you did, I want to say this to you because not many people would have done this. And, God bless you. I just want to say this. You really need to be commended for your heart. God bless you. I'm serious, for your heart.
well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. And so many people tell me, "Oh, you were such a blessing." And I'm like, "Yes, and she was such a blessing in our life." I mean, she taught us so much.
There's a picture in the book. I want to show it, you guys. And she's got her ballerina outfit on
Mhm.
in this picture. And she wanted to take ballet lessons.
Yeah, and what happened? So there was a series of this whole thing between me and the doctors, because now again, they gave her 3 months to live. So when Vanessa, well, first off, I wanted to enroll her in kindergarten, which was like 3 months down the road. And the doctors are like, "You can't do that. It'll kill her." And I'm like, "You said she'd be dead by then. So I'm enrolling her in kindergarten." So she goes to kindergarten, and then she's like, "Mom, I want to take ballet." So when the doctors found out I was enrolling her in ballet, they're like, "You can't do that. It'll kill her." So we had this constant back and forth because I was just determined that whatever time she had, she was going to, live a good life, right? And it was, the whole ballet thing was such a blessing. The recital where that picture came from, she had just come out. I literally took her from the hospital in the backwash of chemo because she was determined she was going to be in this recital. And of course, the doctors were furious, sign her out against whatever. And it was such a blessing for her, but everyone on stage and off were just blown away. She probably didn't do any of the steps right, but it was right that she was there.
Right. No, I'm with you.
And so, my life just became a series of possibilities with her and becoming an advocate for her. And, long story short, those 3 months turned into 26 years. 26 years. And for most of those, for the first 20 years, it was always very difficult. No doubt. She had a lot of cognitive, physical, mental, emotional challenges from all this, but she never, ever let that get in the way of living her life with a sense of purpose. And she always had a smile on her face. She worked for 10 years at PetSmart.
Oh my God. Did you adopt her, Kat?
I did.
You did
I did.
adopt her. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I love
And
that.
she lived, so 10 years she worked part-time at PetSmart. 12 years she volunteered at the Humane Society taking care of unadoptable animals. She lived her life. She did what she could do, and she did it with joy. And it was 26 years of seeing what it means to live out God's love, grace, compassion. And on Valentine's Day in 2005, yeah, I think it was 2015. Yeah, 2015, Valentine's Day, she passed away.
God bless.
And it was like the ultimate day of love.
Yeah.
So for me, and the previous 6 years had been really, really difficult. I mean, she often didn't know who I was. It had taken a toll. So by the time she passed away, it was like a blessing. It was her time, her job on earth was done, and she had lived out her purpose, and she wasn't cured, but she was healed.
Right.
And in the process, I was healed. And that's why I say, I mean, there's a lot more to the story, which I do tell in the book. But there was a lot of healing that took place for me during those 26 years.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
So, and I do have to say, after, when I first took her, it was kind of like, God, why me?
Mhm.
Why me? But when she passed away, it was like, now I get it. After 26 years, I finally get it, God.
Mhm.
And then I thought, what if I hadn't picked up the phone and answered that call?
Right. What if you hadn't gone to the hospital?
What if, and there's so many things, in our life where we have an opportunity to step up, take that step of faith and say, hell yes,
Yeah.
knowing that somehow, some way we're going to figure it out.
Or
Right.
not knowing. Yeah. Your
Well,
husband
yeah.
too. I have to commend your husband because obviously he supported you through all of this as well.
Yeah. And I was married to someone else when I took Venessa.
Oh, no kidding.
And
Wow.
it was I called it the perfect marriage of dysfunction.
I'm just
15 years of not great.
yeah.
And it probably was only because of taking Venessa and me hitting rock bottom when I didn't have a lot of support that I finally had the courage to get out of a bad marriage.
Mhm.
And I mean,
Takes
it took me getting suicidal
mhm. To get
and
out.
getting help to be able to get strong enough and have the courage to say, hell no, hell no.
Right. You
And
got a lot of courage too. You know what
yeah,
I like about your book, and I want to get back to God, thank you for telling us that. I just want to thank you for sharing that story with the audience and myself. It's a beautiful story and how it changes your life and it gives people, well, it just makes me think, I always go for it, but there's always that like, should I do it? Should I not? You know what I mean? And God gives us these opportunities and they're
right.
set before us. And I like what you said at the beginning. I didn't want to stop you, but you said something to the effect of, we think we know the plan, but God's got the plan and we don't even know. And you know, we just live our lives. And I think a lot of times, I just want to say this, we need to let go.
Oh yeah.
Just let go,
Well, and
let God.
I had to let go of a horrible, dysfunctional marriage so that
You could move forward.
I
Yeah.
could move forward. And when Michael came into my life, and I mean, that was a total God shot. He heard me on the radio. It was kind of a sleepless in
Are you going
Seattle
to tell I was
story.
going to talk about your journaling, but you want to tell a little bit of the
Yeah,
story
just
before we get out
quickly.
of
I
here?
mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of a sleepless in Seattle kind of thing.
I
He
love it.
heard me on the radio. I was doing a daily spot for the nonprofit I was working for, promoting and, looking for support.
Yeah.
And he writes me this letter. I mean, like a real
A
handwritten
love letter. A
letter.
love letter.
Well, it wasn't so much a love letter as sharing who he was. He's an architect. He, wasn't in a position to help financially, but if we ever needed any help from an architect, blah, blah, blah. Well, it just so happened we were going to do this renovation. So anyway, I called him up and I'm like, hi, were you serious? We could use some advice.
Wow.
And he came out and he was the nicest guy ever. And I thought to myself, not my type,
Oh.
not my type. Of course, years later, he wasn't my type, and that was a good thing, right? But, he gave us some advice and, I never thought I'd see him again. No energy there. 3 months later, I was in a devastating car accident.
Oh my God.
And that happened on a Friday night. And as he tells the story, God did a knock, 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 call Kat on that Friday night. He ignored it. Saturday night, knock, 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 ignored it. Sunday, knock, knock, knock. What? Who? Long story short, he calls me and I totally unload on him about, everything negative that was going on in my life and the car accident. And, I'm thinking I'm going to hear a click on the other end. And instead of a click, he's like, oh, now I know why I called.
Oh,
We had phone conversations every night for the next year without ever seeing each other.
wow.
And then I'm like, maybe I should invite him over for dinner. He came over, he had a bag of groceries and a golden retriever and shows up at my door. Let me take care of everything. Next thing I know, he and Vanessa are making spaghetti together.
I love it.
And I
I
mean, again, long story short, he was just amazing with her. And a year later, he proposed and, the rest is history. We've been married 30 years.
Oh my gosh. So she got to see you guys get married too. That's
Yes, she was
phenomenal.
in the wedding.
I
She was
love
the
how you bring
flower
God into
girl.
everything. I love how you bring God into everything. And that's really important, especially right now with the world the way it is. It's so nice that, a lot of people are even afraid to say God. They're like, oh, we have to say
Yeah.
spirit. We have to say, this or that. But there is a God. And, it's, you have
And
that.
he has a plan.
Yes.
He has a plan for each of us. And I believe wholeheartedly that we are all living our legacy every moment of the day, choice by choice. And for me, especially with Vanessa, it was about living out a legacy of love. And it is a choice every day, moment by moment. We get up and then we get to choose how we're going to live out that day.
Yeah. Are you going to have a good
And
attitude or are you not? It's your choice. You can
yeah, I
change
mean, we
up.
think about, when we think about legacy, we think about what we're going to leave behind when we're
Right.
gone.
Right.
But the reality is we're living it by who we are
Mhm. Yeah.
every
What we
day.
do matters down here. What we do matters down here. I
And to your
say
point, today, more than ever, we need people who will believe that the impossible is possible.
that's right. And you do.
And we need people to say, hell yes, I am going to do something, be something, and I started by saying do, but, lately when I've been journaling, it's been about who do I need to be in this next stage of my life? Because I'm in a transformational journey. It isn't like there's an end, right? It's an ongoing transformational journey. And that's why you mentioned the journal in the book. I decided to include in the book, not as a separate, but for every chapter in the book, there's a corresponding chapter in the journal.
Mhm.
So as I am sharing my stories in the first part, I'm building in moments of reflection. I'm asking the reader, to ponder some things, but I wanted them to ponder it more. So the journal is, each chapter has some, deeper questions that they can delve into.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
yeah.
cute. There's a note from Kat. I'm going to read it. The journal is an opportunity to do some future reflection on how you can go from impossible to possible on your journey and what it will take to live the life you really want. I really like that. Boy, you're just a great lady. I'm so glad you
Oh,
I'm so glad you put this together. We are in need of this right now. The world's going crazy and this is needed. This journal is needed. I'm going to do the journal. you can every day improve yourself, improve yourself, improve yourself,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
right. We're here to do that. And our connection to God is what's going to keep us centered and keep us balanced through all the craziness that is occurring in the world right now. And what a cool book, From Doubt to Do, you guys. Kat O'Sullivan. I love it. Thank you.
Well, it was, moving to Mexico was the only way this book was ever going to get written, for one thing. And moving here gave me the time to step back and reflect and think about, what do I want this book to be about? And what is going to be most meaningful and transformational for the reader?
Right, right. For the person. I was going to say that too, and I guess I'm to that point in my life as well. What can I do to help other people? Because and share what I've learned. And that's what you do in this book. You share what you've learned, so maybe somebody else doesn't have to go through it. They get it. You go
Well,
through
and
the
I
lesson.
think it's a book for anyone at any stage of their life. That being said, my passion right now is about working with women 50 plus who are going through some transition or want to go through some transition, but it feels impossible.
Mhm.
And to give them an opportunity to dream big, to live boldly, and create a fulfilling life that they will love, that will contribute to them living out their legacy. And I
Right.
think, the whole thing with women 50 plus is because I'll tell you, I'm actually 71.
All right.
My husband is 89.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a big gap there, which
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal 30 years ago, but it's a big deal. Um, but, I think as we mature, when we get these aha moments, one of those first thoughts is, can I really do that at this stage in my life?
Yeah.
And so that's my big message, is for women that age is just a number.
It absolutely is. And
It's just a
Yes.
number.
Well, and in
And
Go
we're so
ahead.
programmed. We're
I
so
know, I know. I want to
programmed.
read this though. 5 women you put in the book on changing their careers later in life. And I'll just read a couple of them before we get out of here today. Melissa Richardson, after nearly 30 years running a successful modeling agency, Melissa embraced her love of flowers and founded Jam Jar Flowers. I love that. There's another one in here, Rosie Pratt, after working as a city lawyer for 26 years, at the age of 50, she retrained as a veterinary nurse. Oh, that's crazy because that had to take a lot of time. One more, Anna Tingle, after working as a teacher supporting children with learning difficulties, she retrained as a counselor in her mid-50s. I
Yeah.
love this. This is so encouraging.
There's
And
no limit.
yeah, and
There's
you can be
no
a guy
limit.
too and be in your 50s and change it as well. We won't be sexist here. Well, listen, Kat O'Sullivan, we got to get out of here for today, but I just want to thank you. And how can people get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to my website at
Okay.
katosullivan.com. And if you want to know more about the book or how to get it, there's a link on my book page. And, the more about the different ways in which, you could potentially get more support from me, from free things to, paid opportunities, coaching and whatnot. But that's probably the easiest way. Or if somebody wants to reach out more personally, kat@katosullivan.com.
I love it. I
You can
love it.
email me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for
Well,
telling your
thank you.
story. I appreciate it. I really do. I know the audience does. Hey, you guys, we're going to get out of here for today. Check out my new book, A Guide to Angel Communication and Spiritual Laws, and visit my new website, psychicforhumanity.com. I hope everybody has a fabulous week, and God bless.
Hold your head high, the world is coming. Watch the colors lift your soul. Bye.